Angel Reese just got the boot from Unrivaled, and the silence surrounding her exit is louder than any press release could ever be. The player who was once the face of the league, the so-called first-ever Unrivaled champion, has been wiped off their map completely. No official statement, no injury excuse, no farewell post. Just gone like she was never there. It's the kind of disappearance that doesn't happen by accident. What unfolded behind the scenes, according to insiders, wasn't a simple business move. It was a calculated purge. Unrivaled didn't just part ways with Angel Reese. They decided they were done with her drama, her unpredictability, and the constant circus that followed her every move. And that decision might change the landscape of women's basketball forever. When Unrivaled released their Season 2 lineup, every major name was listed except hers. Fans immediately noticed the glaring omission. This was the same player who'd spent all of Season 1 being plastered across marketing campaigns, highlight reels, and social media hype clips. She was the spark plug for Unrivaled's debut, a magnet for attention, controversy, and conversation. But somewhere between the viral moments and the empty stat sheets, things went sour. League officials reportedly held multiple closed-door meetings over what they called the Reese problem. It wasn't about her talent, it was about her attitude, the missed games, the backstage chaos, the constant friction. By the end of the season, those inside the organization had reached a rare unanimous decision. Angel Reese would not be invited back, and that's when the real story began to surface. The breaking point came during the playoffs when Reese, the self-proclaimed face of the league, wasn't even on the court. Her teammates fought tooth and nail for the championship without her, only for her to FaceTime into the victory celebration afterward, like a guest star in a show she'd abandoned. That moment left teammates speechless and fans furious. Inside the locker room, her absence wasn't seen as mysterious, it was seen as betrayal. Players reportedly vented that she'd become more invested in her personal brand than in the team's success. But they stayed quiet publicly, unwilling to feed the media frenzy. It wasn't the first time Reese's priorities had been questioned. Back in Chicago, her tenure with the Sky had been rocky at best. She racked up technical fouls like they were trophies, lashed out at referees in clutch moments, and built a reputation for being as volatile as she was talented. Her injuries, too, seemed to appear and disappear based on convenience. When a major brand deal or media appearance came up, she was suddenly healthy again. But when her team needed her in practice or on defense, she was sitting courtside, smiling for the cameras. One veteran player from the Sky put it bluntly, "The energy changes the second she walks in the room, and not in a good way." When Unrivaled executives reviewed Season 1's performance metrics, the numbers told an ugly truth. Despite millions spent on marketing and over 30 million views on social clips of Reese's antics, the actual game viewership plummeted. After a record-breaking debut, ratings dropped nearly 70%. Sponsors began questioning whether the drama was worth it. What they found was a pattern. Reese's controversies spiked engagement for a few days, but then viewership cratered. Audiences were tuning in for gossip, not basketball. The league's marketing team called it the diminishing returns effect. Each time Reese stirred up controversy, the backlash came faster and lasted longer. As one executive reportedly said, "We're supposed to be running a basketball league, not a reality show." And that's exactly how Unrivaled began to treat it, like a show that had lost its lead star's appeal. When her contract came up for renewal, Reese's camp asked for a raise, reportedly pushing for a $250,000 salary, but her numbers couldn't justify it. Her jersey sales had flatlined. Ticket sales didn't move, and her on-court performance had declined sharply. The data showed that players making half her salary were outperforming her in every metric that mattered. The marketing buzz couldn't hide the truth anymore. Angel Reese was a net loss. Meanwhile, other leagues like Athletes Unlimited were watching carefully. They briefly entertained the idea of signing Reese for exposure, but backed off after internal discussions. "She brings attention," one insider said, "but not the kind you can sustain." Even overseas teams that usually jump at the chance to sign big American names passed. Her reputation for being unreliable had spread too far. But perhaps the most telling part of this story comes from her former teammates' accounts. Several insiders say Reese's focus was never truly on basketball. She was known to check her phone during timeouts to monitor social media engagement. She discussed podcast topics in team meetings. During huddles, when coaches were drawing up plays, she was thinking about the next headline. Her disconnect from the game she once dominated had become painfully obvious. By the time Unrivaled realized it, it was too late. She was more influencer than athlete. That realization changed everything. In early 2025, commissioners from both the WNBA and Unrivaled reportedly held a joint discussion about the dangers of building their brands around drama. They pointed to Caitlin Clark as the perfect counterexample, a player who brought global attention through talent, not theatrics. Clark's games drew millions of viewers because people wanted to see greatness, not gossip. The message was clear. Women's basketball needed stars who represented excellence, not chaos. When Reese's camp realized she was being excluded, they made a last-ditch effort to fix things. They offered to lower her salary. They promised to behave better. They even pitched a redemption arc, a media campaign where she'd rebuild her image. But Unrivaled wasn't buying it. They'd already signed players who showed up on time, played with discipline, and didn't need constant management. The response was simple and final. We've moved on, and the ripple effects have been massive. Agents are now warning their young clients not to follow in Reese's footsteps. Coaches use her story as a cautionary tale about what happens when you think you're bigger than the game. Even brands that once lined up to work with her are quietly backing away, scrubbing old posts and pulling campaigns. The Chicago Sky, still bound to her contract, are reportedly struggling to find trade partners. No one wants to take on the baggage. Teams want leaders, not liabilities. The silence from Unrivaled's front office is deliberate. By saying nothing, they've said everything. They didn't need to issue a statement. The omission of her name told the whole story. In an industry that thrives on PR spin and controversy, the quiet removal of Angel Reese was the loudest message they could send. Professionalism now matters more than popularity. For years, women's basketball was desperate for attention, and leagues were willing to tolerate chaos if it brought clicks. But this is a turning point. The sport is growing. The fans are watching, and the powers that be are done sacrificing credibility for short-term fame. Angel Reese was once the face of that gamble. Now she's the cautionary tale. Players across the league have already taken notice. Reports say technical fouls are down, attendance at practices is up, and attitudes are shifting. Everyone's on their best behavior now, realizing that no one, not even a viral superstar, is untouchable anymore. This is the new era of women's basketball: talent, discipline, and professionalism. The drama queens have officially been benched. As for Angel Reese, her future is murky. She could rebuild her career somewhere else, maybe even find redemption overseas. But for now, she's living with the consequences of fame built on controversy rather than consistency. The same spotlight that made her a star has now burned her out of the game. What do you think about Unrivaled's decision to quietly erase Angel Reese from their roster? Was it a necessary move to protect the future of women's basketball, or did they just throw away one of their most marketable stars? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. And if you love deep dives into stories the media won't tell you, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications, because the next chapter of this saga is only just beginning.